If you own a Ford motorhome, this is really, really important for you to watch. In today's video, Izzy is going to talk to you about the horrible experience we had with Ford, what you can do to be your own advocate if something similar happens, and what we did ultimately to get it resolved.
All right, so like MJ said, we're going to talk about a problem we had dealing with Ford in our motorhome. So this all started back in September. If you remember, we had a trip out to Indiana and we actually went to a service center to fix a problem that came from the factory that could have potentially been a really big problem for us. We will link the video above, but just a cliff note version, what happened was one of our wheel seals actually was leaking and all the diff fluid had leaked out. Thankfully, it was caught on a routine service that we had paid for at Mass Service Center. They picked it up. It could have been a real big problem for us if we were headed back to New Jersey. We probably would have been stuck on the side of the road. The techs there were pretty confident that this was an issue coming out of the factory simply because of the low mileage. And actually, when they pulled everything out, they found that some of the bolts were not torqued to spec, which is probably what caused the seal to be damaged. Now, being that this was a warranty claim, we were under both the years and the mileage. So according to Mass Service Center, we should have been under warranty. Well, we called 4 different dealerships, commercial fleet dealerships for Ford, and they were in Indiana. None of them, well, some of them didn't even answer the call, and none of them would take us. It wasn't because they didn't have the facilities to do so. They did, they just didn't want to work on motorhomes. That is the first thing that we think is a real problem with Ford. Now, as a result of us not being able to get into a Ford dealership to get our problem fixed under warranty, which is what should have been done, we had to pay Mass Service Center. Mass was nothing but professional. They had our coach fixed within actually a couple days, but a few days was to get the parts, and then once they got the parts, it was fixed the same day. We haven't had a problem since. As a result, we had to pay out of pocket in excess of $1,000. Okay, that didn't sit well with me, but I kind of accepted it because I just didn't want to deal, it was fixed, didn't want to deal with it. On the way home, we had a check engine light came on. Nothing was really that we felt driving was a problem, but it was something I just want to have addressed. It was getting toward the end of the season. I figured let's take it into our normal Ford service center that we dealt with last year when we had our routine maintenance. Let's just take it in there. It's not far from us, have it dealt with. Well, I call that service center, and for the purpose of this video, I'm not going to call out dealerships because that's not what we're about, but it's a dealership in New Jersey, commercial fleet dealership, and we found out that they just no longer service motorhomes. Not because they didn't have the bays, not because they didn't have the ability, just because they don't do it.
Thank you for calling Ford.
Hi, I'm looking to bring my motorhome in. Can I make an appointment?
Okay, so we don't work on motorhomes, sir.
Okay, you guys used to work on them. You don't work on them anymore?
We don't work on them anymore.
Okay, do you know anybody that in the area that works on them?
I'm not necessarily sure, to be honest, sir.
All right, thank you. That didn't sit well with me. I called 4 other dealerships, so 5 dealerships within a 60-mile range, Ford commercial dealerships. Now, if you go on Ford's commercial fleet website, they have the dealerships that service their commercial fleets as well as the bay sizes, and the dealerships that I call all had the capability to service our motorhome. They just didn't do it. In my opinion, our opinion is that if Ford is selling motorhomes, they're selling F53 chassis, dealerships should be required to service Ford products, and that is not what's happening in at least where we are here in the Northeast in northern New Jersey, and out by Elkhart, Indiana, that was not happening either. So now that this had happened to us 2 times, I was not happy. And now I wanted to readdress the issue with the warranty. I wasn't going to let it go anymore. And maybe a lot of people do let it go. And I was one of those people that were going to do it. But now we had 2 instances where it was clearly under warranty. We paid a lot of money for this motorhome, and I just didn't feel it was right. So I called Ford's customer service. The number was provided to us by the dealership that had serviced our coach last year. I kind of gave them a little bit of a hard time on the phone. I wanted an answer. They gave me the corporate number, the fleet management, to call. I called them, and essentially what they told me was that it's up to the dealership who they don't want to service. The dealership saying we don't want to service your motorhome, call corporate. Corporate is saying, well, there's not much we can really do, call the dealership. And I really wasn't happy. MJ was there when I was on the phone, and I was just not taking no. I finally got the number to a woman named Rhonda. She is, I believe, manager of the fleet customer service. I give a lot of credit to Rhonda because Rhonda actually was the only one that seemed to care from anybody that we dealt with Ford. Rhonda advised me that Ford actually does have a program to reimburse for warranty claims, things that were paid out, for the very reason that the predicament we were in. So what she told me was that I would have to go to a local Ford dealership, see the service manager or somebody in warranty claims, and submit a claim, the invoice from wherever we had our coach fixed, with a detailed list of what was fixed, and they would submit it to Ford for reimbursement. So we did that. September 22nd, 2020, this year, I went to a local dealership. Again, I won't mention names, and I saw the service manager. Service manager was very nice, came out, met me in person. I submitted everything to them along with the appropriate paperwork and my current home address. And this is going to be very important for later on in the video. You're not going to want to miss what happened with later on. I'll leave it that way. So I spoke to the manager. He told me it would be 7 to 14 days before things were submitted. He didn't see a problem. He looked at the invoice. He said, everything looks good. You should have a check within 7 to 14 days. So the service manager, he provided me with his email, his phone number. He said, if you have any questions, give me a call. You should be hearing from us, within the next couple of weeks. So on October 6th, I emailed the service manager from the unnamed dealership just to see what the status was. So what this led to was a series of multiple phone calls, unanswered emails. And I'm not the type of person to hound somebody. I understand if it takes time, that's fine. I would just expect a mutual courtesy. If I email you or I call you once, twice, 3 times over several weeks, just shoot me an email. Hey, it's been submitted. Here's the status. That's all I care. I just wanted to know that this stuff was set out. What happened was that communication broke down. Whether they were too busy, whether they just couldn't be bothered, I don't know the reason why, but there was no communication between me and the dealership. What I did wind up doing was calling Rhonda again and advising her, and this was after probably close to a month, advising her, what was going on. I was kind of not in the loop on what was going on, and Rhonda was understanding, and she did agree that at the very minimum, the dealer should just keep us updated. She did advise me that normally it takes about 6 to 8 weeks, which is fine. I wish I was told that from the beginning. So we waited it out a little bit, and ultimately in November, this is what happened. So on November 20th, 2020, I received an email from Rhonda, and I just want to follow up. Throughout this whole incident, once Rhonda was made aware of the lack of communication between myself and the dealership, she followed up with me weekly. I didn't have to email her. She just shot me out a quick email. Hey, just want to know how everything's going. Have you heard anything from the dealership? If the answer was always no, she would reach out to the dealership. She had told me that herself was not getting answers from the dealership, but she kept me in the loop. Anyway, November 20th, 2020, she advised me that the dealership had a check ready for me. Apparently, the dealership sent the check to an address they had on file when MJ first bought her car that we haven't lived there in 4 years. So they sent the check out to an old address, and then it was later returned to them. And when I looked at the address, it was completely different than what I had submitted the information to them in the beginning. So again, a lack of attention to detail. This could have easily been resolved if the emails were answered. Where do you want the check to be sent? We got the check completed. None of that was done. Ultimately, we did get a check, and the check was the amount of $965.44. So kudos to Ford for actually paying that amount. But customers out there, people that own these RVs, do not be discouraged by the dealerships, whether it's purposeful or not, whether Ford's doing this on purpose or not. I don't know. I don't know the answer. But 2 things need to be addressed. Number 1, dealerships, commercial fleet dealerships should be required to service the motorhomes. If Ford is selling them, they should be required to service them. Okay, they're selling those products. Number 2, there needs to be some addressing on customer service. Now, Rhonda seems to have that down perfectly. She works for corporate. She understands the value of customer service. I know where I'm at when I'm at work and somebody calls me, whether that's another agency or a victim or a complainant, I take the time to call them back because that is decent human communication, right? That's what you do with people. You don't leave them hanging. It's not fair to them. So we felt this video was appropriate and necessary to tell the people out there, the Ford owners, that if you find yourself in this predicament, do not give up. We will put the links below to the corporate fleet number. I will also put the link to the phone number for Rhonda if you have the same problem. She is very accommodating and understanding. In the comments below, if you've had an experience with Ford warranty claims, has it been different than ours? If it has been, what part of the country are you in? Also put in the comments below, have you had an experience similar to ours, and what did you do to resolve that? And for myself and MJ, we thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you on the road.